topic that's kind of popped up in therapy with myself and other therapists that I work with about connecting the knowing. I know I should do XYZ. I know I shouldn't talk too much. I know I shouldn't react. But then, and we always talk about like, working in that cognitive part of the brain. Like, I know what I should be doing, especially, anyone that's been through social skill stuff. How do we connect or how do we support our autistic clients and some of us, even ourselves? How do we connect the knowing with the doing? Because just like we said, we were just talking about homeostasis, like especially when our bodies aren't in homeostasis, that connecting the knowing with the doing is super difficult. So in my mind, one, we have to be kind of in homeostasis to connect it. Would you agree with that?
I agree. The problem is that when you're in that doing stage, you're not necessarily in the area of the brain that deals with the cognitive knowing part.
Yeah.
Even when an autistic, say, goes or even starts to go into a meltdown, you can start to see the signs of stress. Okay, they're in that emotional part of the brain. They're not in the thinking part. So, and this is a strategy that I have taught to teachers when I was working to help them be in control of their environment, because when the kids would start escalating, they would start escalating along with them.
Yes.
Now, when they're both in that emotional doing state, one of them, hopefully the teacher, has got to shift to the thinking area of the brain, and that gets them to shift to the thinking area of the brain. So you need to pull in what I call the cognitive area is the biggest inhibitor, i.e., helping you to control and stop what you're doing so that you can shift to thinking. So sometimes this is why, the phrase count to 10.
Mhm.
The whole purpose is if you start, and if you know an autistic, especially with their gestalt language learning, the phrases that they use, say with a typical kid, you may say 1, 2, 3, 4, and get them to count with you. Now you're getting them to shift. For your gestalt language learner, use their phrases and get them to the thinking, that language area of the brain that's part of the thinking area. Now you've shifted to where you can now get them to think about what they're doing. And mostly what you're going to have to do, because when we're in that doing stage, we're not always paying attention to what we're doing. We're just doing it.
Yeah.
So now you're going to have to use this feedback approach to feed them what you saw them doing, or what you think you saw them doing, what you perceived they were doing, what you guessed the motive behind it was. This is where now, when you've got them on a thinking level, you can say, I saw this. I think it means this is what you were trying to do. Am I right? Now, see, they can think about it and say, oh, uh, no, I think this is what I was thinking or meant when I was doing that. This is why but especially autistics don't always have the language. So you need to provide the language, but they can recognize when you use the right words. They're just not always able to recall the words to tell you. So
Okay.
using that approach of problem solving, but first you've got to get them to shift from the emotion and driving what's doing to the thinking area of the brain, which means either the language area, mostly the language area. Sometimes you can use visuals, say gestures of stop, or just an expression that surprises them, that gets them to help shift. But you've got to find a way that helps them shift from what they're doing to become aware. Then you can use that area.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is step one is we have to stay calm. Even if we're
Yeah.
saying stop and maybe using a gesture, it has to be calm. And then step two is shifting to that thinking part of the brain through the counting or using their gestalts. And then step three is labeling what we're seeing, not labeling how they're feeling, labeling what we're seeing. Oh, I see you starting to bite your hand, or I see your face, your eyebrows are going down. And then I know we've used this tool with some other clients where, if you have a whiteboard nearby, maybe write out some phrases. Was it too hard? Did you not like it? Do you need your headphones, listing out things that may be what they're trying to communicate. And I feel like these three steps are going to be so crucial to teachers, therapists, whoever, because a lot of times we are the ones maybe triggering it because we missed out
Mhm.
on a sign or something. It's even going to teach us like, oh yeah, this was too hard. So okay, so those are three steps that I think are very easy. Anyone can implement even today.
Yeah. And actually, what the teacher that I was teaching this strategy to, she quickly turned it over to her aide because her aide was able to stay calm in the
Mhm.
circumstances and she knew she could,
Yep.
and it worked.
Yes. We don't all have to be the heroes, especially if we spilled coffee on ourselves that morning and had a horrible day and whatever. If our cup is too full and overspilling, hand it off to somebody else who maybe is ready to regulate. Awesome. Thanks, Sue.
Yeah.